Hi ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be working on a lesson with multiplying decimals. So let's get started with our do now. This is something that we've practiced before. We want to find the product of each of these. So we're going to start with 5/10 times 5/10. All right, when we multiply these two together, we end up with 25. And we're going to count the decimal place values in each of those factors. We need those many in the product. So we have 25/100. We could have also done a half times a half, which is 1/4, and 1/4 is equivalent to 25/100. On to our next one here. If I think about this, let's start with the fraction form first. I want to take 1/10 of 10. That would be just 1 whole. So if I multiply it, we have 10 times 1/10. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 is 1. We have 1 decimal place value in the factor. We need 1 in the product. So it would be 1 or 1.0, 1 0/10. On to our next one. Let's say we have 40 groups of 2 cents. If I put that together, that's going to be 80 cents altogether. So let's just show our work for this one and how we're getting to that. Right, 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 4 is 8. And I don't need another row of zeros here when I multiply by the other zeros, because when I add, it's not going to change anything. So I'm going to count the decimal place values in the factor. There's 2 of them. That means we need 2 in our product. So it's going to go just before the 8. So you have 0.80. 80/100 or 8/10. The next question to our do now, we want to place the decimal point where it belongs. So we're going to use some estimating for this, and I'm going to round my numbers before multiplying. This first number is going to round to 2, and the second number rounds to 9, because I'm looking at the tens place here in both of those numbers. All right, I know 9 times 2 is 18. So I'm looking for a product up here on the top that's close to 18. Well, the only place we could put the decimal point where the value would be close to 18 would be between the 9 and the 0, 19.0614. I can't say the proper place value because I don't know what's coming out after those. That's what these dots are there for. Okay, let's go on to today's lesson. It's a little bit of a continuation of the previous day. We want to find the product of each of these. So we're going to go ahead and multiply here. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 9 is 18. I'm going to carry the 1 up. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Again, like I said before, I don't have to multiply by the other 2 zeros because it would give me a row of zeros here and it wouldn't change when I added things down. Okay, so I'm going to skip multiplying by those zeros. Let's figure out how many decimal place values are in each of the factors. We have 1 in the first number, 2 in the second number. That means we need 3 in our product altogether. And I'm going to scoop from the right towards the left to put that decimal point in and count them out. So it's going to go just to the left of the 3. I'm going to put a 0 here to show there are no whole numbers. And we have 384 thousandths as the product. Okay, on to the second question. Let's go ahead and multiply as if the decimal point were not there. So we have 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 4 is 12. We're going to go on to the next place value. So I need a 0 there to show we're moving on to the 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. And I'm going to carry the 1 up. 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 1 is 4. I'm not going to multiply by this 0, it's just going to add a row of zeros. Now we're going to add, so we have 8, 3, 7, and 5. And the last step is to count out the decimal place values in the factors. So we have 2 in that top number, 2 in the bottom number. That means we need 4 in our product. So again, I'm going to scoop it over from the right towards the left, 2 places. Well, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. It's going to be right in front of the 5, to the left of the 5. Again, I want to put a 0 in front of it, and I'm going to rewrite my number without those scoops in it so you can clearly see where the decimal point is. So we have 5,738 ten thousandths. question here. We have 807 multiplied by 8 hundredths. We're going to go ahead and multiply 8 times 7, which is 56. 8 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 5, and 8 times 8 is 64. So our first number has no decimal place values. The second number has 2 decimal place values, so we need 2 in the product. So from the right to the left, we'll scoop it over. It's going to go between the 4 and the 5, and again I want to rewrite our numbers so you can clearly see where the decimal point is. It's 64 and 56 hundredths. All right, we have one more here. 573 thousandths times 70 hundredths. In this case, you can choose to take the 0 off and then rewrite the problem if you do that, right? Or you can keep the 0 in there. I'm going to choose to keep the 0 in because it's going to just easier here. So I have 0 times 3, 0 times 7, 0 times 5, 0 times 0, a whole row of zeros. Then we need a placeholder because we're moving on to the next place value there. 7 times 3 is 21. Carry the 2 up. 7 times 7 is 49. Plus 2 is 51. And 7 times 5 is 35. Plus 5 is 40. And I could have put the 4 up here, but I skipped that step quickly. Let me just say it out. 7 times 0 is 0, plus the 4 is 4. So we're done with the 7. I am not going to show multiplying with another row of zeros. It won't change the sum. Now we're going to add. All right, so we have 40,110, and the last step is to place the decimal point appropriately. So I want to count the number of decimal place values in the first factor. There's 3 of them, and there are 2 in the second one. So I'm going to scoop our decimal point over 5 places altogether. And it's going to go just before that 4, so I have 40,110 hundred thousandths as our product. All right, let's move on to our next question. Miss Nagy is buying 1.5 pounds of steak, or 1 5/10 pounds of steak that costs $13.99 per pound. How much will she pay for the steak? All right, so this is a multiplication problem. If I were buying 1 pound, it would cost me $13.99. If I were buying 2 pounds, I would double that amount to multiply it by 2. But I am multiplying and buying 1.5 pounds. So here we go. I'm going to set this up. We're not going to round our values. I'm paying exactly $13.99, not $14, not a penny more. And I do not, when we're setting this up, it's not necessary to line up decimal place values. Let me just show you that. So I don't need to line up the decimal place values and add this unnecessary 0 there, right? I'm going to keep that 0 out because we're not bringing the decimal point straight down. So let's go ahead and multiply here. That's a 45, carry the 4. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 4 is 49. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 4 is 19. And 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. I'm going to add a placeholder there. And we're moving on to multiplying by 1. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. So we have 5, 18, 19, 10, and 2. And then the last step would be to place our decimal point in. We have 2 decimal place values in the first factor, 1 in the second, so that means we need 3 in the product. So it's going to go between the 0 and the 9. However, this does not look like money. It's not good for us. It needs to go to 2 decimal place values only. So I'm going to put a box around what money should look like. It should be $20.98. The number just outside is going to tell us whether it should round up or whether it stays the same. Since it's a 5, it is going to round up to the next penny, which would be $20.99. All right, if you have any questions, I'm going to ask you to message me directly or I will talk to you in our Google Meet. Have a great day. Bye-bye.